The internet taught everyone to self diagnose their medical conditions. AI made it faster, more persuasive, and significantly more dangerous. Today, you're going to hear from one of our oldest friends. Dr. Ajit Barron-Dhillon is a physician, military veteran, and someone who has watched patients demand MRIs for minor complaints because the internet said so. We'll talk about what AI assisted health research actually does to people who think they're being smart about it, AI optimized supplement stacks, and why being more intelligent than others with these tools may make you more vulnerable, not less. Welcome to Brobots. This is the podcast that tries to help you be a better human by being smarter about how you use technology. It's kind of ironic that Ajit and Jason in this conversation are talking about using the internet to diagnose health conditions. I had to sit out this conversation because I was sick and frantically Googling how to get better. You're going to find out what's going on in the doctor's mind when you come to them with the research you've done with Dr. Claude before you even showed up at your medical appointment, and some of the crazy requests patients have made based on that research. But their conversation begins somewhere that's near and dear to my heart, and it's how kids are interacting with the internet, with social media, and how there is a growing push as we get more technologically advanced and more plugged in to try to unplug and reconnect with each other in reality, in real life, and with nature.
It seems like there are smaller things that people could do and should be doing on a more frequent basis. And one of those big things that people are trying to push now is disconnecting from your computer and social media. And there's a wide-ranging set of debates right now in different states where people are going through and trying to enforce certain regulations, and other countries are doing this to try to prevent kids from being so obsessed with and absorbed by social media. And there's a whole movement among younger kids these days to disconnect from it and never join up to begin with. Apparently dating live in person and actually talking to people is like a cool new hip things for kids, because they no longer want to use these digital tools to kind of make those pieces work. As someone in the medical profession, as someone that has kind of drifted between multiple different, not just careers, but specialties and trying different things, and your past military experience, you've got a large battery of experience that other people would never see. And I think it gives you a unique perspective. Along these lines, the human beings interfacing with technology at the rate that we are and really augmenting our reality. Can you talk briefly about what you think that does to us as people at various different stages in our life? Like, kind of start with kids and then talk about how it affects us old fuckers like we are now, where we're trying to deal with shit and trying to figure out how to not be obsoleted by our robot overlords.
That is such a broad, awesome question that has multi levels that I would love to. But the one thing I was talking about,
I wanted to give you riff room.
yes, you're not going to hold my hand and remind me, because there's a lot of stuff in there. But it reminds me of something I saw one time. It was really cool. It was only just a few years ago, like a year or two before the pandemic, and it was a coffee shop in the Midwest. I don't know where I was. I think I was outside of Chicago or something. But there was this really cool coffee house, and it looked like something, like what we would have had in like a coffee house in Seattle in the 90s. Okay, something like out of Friends, an episode, right?
Yeah.
And it was so cool, and it was so cool that I was feeling that way. And I walk in, and there was a chalkboard saying, "We don't have any Wi-Fi, so don't ask if we have any Wi-Fi. Why don't you pretend it's the 90s and talk to someone?" Yeah, exactly. And so that's what I thought of. It's very interesting. With some of the stuff I've done in my life, I've lived in Europe, medicine, there, military, but a lot of the things that I've done, and this is where I could take the internet, and so it's a really funny event where the younger generation, if I'll sit there and talk to them, unless I can show them, real life photos or degrees and certificates. Okay, when I talk about my past, the immediate thing that the younger generation immediately wants to do is start Googling it and see if any of it is real. They Google everything, and so if they can't find it on the internet, or if there's something skewed, or immediately one can be I've been called a liar plenty of times. Like, there's no way you've done this. There's no way. Like, recently, you were really in Antarctica. Like, yeah, dude. And just because I got to do it and they couldn't do it, or they couldn't. Yeah, I think the first thing people look at are like flights to Antarctica. I'm like, no, there's no flights to Antarctica. You got to go to a different country, and then you get on a boat to get down there. But it creates a lot of misinformation, and it creates it creates sides that, I mean, we've seen it obviously in the political atmosphere, right? You know, if you Google something or if you search something, you're going to find two sides of that coin. So, so just because you can't find some information or you find false information, um, that kind of makes it very, very difficult. And so when I come,
Yeah.
like for example, when I came back from Ukraine, you know, I'm talking about, you know, the stuff that we had to do, and there was a lot of eyebrows raised. Like one of the things that we had to do was we had to turn off our cell phones. You're thinking, why the hell would you want to turn off your cell phones? Well, the Russians have gotten really good at you know, receiving and transmissions that just happen from cell phones. Um, but about 6 months after I got back, the New York Times did an article about this
Yeah.
and what you have to do. So I was like, okay, so now you believe me, right? Because you got something published there. But there's so much stuff that isn't published. You know, a lot of the atrocities that, you know, happened over there. And unfortunately, some of the things that I saw that I still think about to this day, you know, is not there. There might be some mention here and there, but
Yeah.
the internet is only as good as how honest a human is going to put something on there. And it's only as good as you know, it's only as good as what you put on there. And a lot of what happens on this planet does not go on the internet. What's on the internet is just
Hmm.
what's on the internet. So
Yeah.
it really destroys a lot of things, you know, that we do. Like, I mean, there's some things in medicine where it's like, you know, hey, try this because, you know, we've actually witnessed a good research, you know, it's like solid research that can back up this particular, you know, component that you can add to someone's therapy. And if they can't find it or it's inconclusive, it's probably a bad thing to do. And this is something that a physician has just recently been a part of. Hey, you know, it's part of an experimental study. I think this is going to really help. And they'll be like, no, I'd rather take ivermectin, give ivermectin to my 4-year-old or something. The lack or ability to interpret the data that you're looking up correctly because you're just not
Yeah.
experienced in certain aspects of what's being presented. And when that happens, even to the most, you know, astute internet researcher, and you're looking up information to understand what the other information is trying to say, you have to have a proper ability to put that together. And if you're doing that on your own, that's foolish. Some people can do it really good. Some people can do it well, but that's also based on whatever information you're finding is going to be truthful or relevant or helpful, really, you know, because there's so much disinformation out there.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's it.
Well, it, it's interesting. So like I'm on Facebook,
Okay.
and I've trained my feed to pretty much give me dog videos, cat videos, and like
As we all do.
silly things that I would like and enjoy. But it likes to inject things that are targeted towards men of my age. Like clearly I need hair plugs. As we can all see on video, that I don't need fucking hair plug. I have too much hair on my skull. But it also thinks I need. It also thinks I need testosterone supplements, which I probably do. It also thinks that I need things because I'm too fat, so I'm constantly getting semaglutide ads, compounding pharmacy ads, and boner pills all the time. Like all mixed in with these cat videos and dog videos and like cute red panda videos, trying to figure out and probe me to keep the, you know, the machine that is Facebook, you know, funded by advertisers, which is shitty and fucked up, and you know, not a great way to run society.
I love it though, man, Jason. I love it, dude. When I get stuff like that saying I need hair plugs, I need erectile dysfunction medication, I need this, they have the best photos and stuff to go along with it. You know,
they're pretty good.
Oh man,
they're pretty good. Yeah, like the schwanz size increase your schwanz by 9 inches. Like, wait a minute.
It will work. It's going to work. Look at how happy she looks in that photo. Yeah, it's going to be.
Exactly. This has never worked for anybody, but it will always work for you. And like lately, I keep getting ads for like sex pillows. I'm like, what the okay.
We got some of those. They're awesome, dude.
I mean, pillows? Oh, okay, great. No doubt. But like, it's just this thing where I'm constantly inundated with these things over and over again. But it's funny because I'll actually I'll look at those ads that they come in for like different supplements, and I'll like look at the ingredients, and I'll be like, all right, well, how many of these things am I taking today? And I'll start looking through these things, and I'm like, oh, okay, these guys want $50 for $10 of supplement shit.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I get what they're doing, but I'm like, also, they're not much different than the stack that I take.
Right.
So I finally like took my stack and put it into an Excel spreadsheet.
Yep.
And I had some, and I just took everything that was in my supplement box, which is like 48 different things. And I loaded up what my current daily regimen is and sent it into ChatGPT. And I'm like, hey, can you tell me how effective of a combination stack this is? And I gave it like my vitals. I'm a 51-year-old man. Here's my exercise routine. As I built all these things in. And, of course, it tells me, oh, wow, you're doing a great job. Way to take care of your health, blah, 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 blah. And I go, no, like for real. And it's like, oh, okay. So you're taking too many of these things. You're going to have too many signals inside your system because you're taking some things that you should be taking during the day, that you should be taking during the night. And I'm reading through this and I'm like, okay, yeah, these are actually like legitimate pieces. So I'll start digging through this stuff and start to kind of uncover it. And I'm playing with my supplements, right? Like, which is not uncommon. It's trial and error. And I've been doing this for a long time, so I know how to like record and track these things over a period of time. But I got to the end of it, and it basically told me to cut my load in half by pulling out certain things and reducing things and taking out some things over during the day and some things at night. And I've been doing it for about 2 weeks now, and I've noticed some slight difference. Like I sleep a little better, my recovery feels a little lighter, but I have enough experience fucking with this that I feel like I'm confident enough to do this. That being said, I just met with my naturopath today and said, hey, I made some adjustments because ChatGPT said to make these changes on the stack that we've been working on with me for this period of time. And he goes, yeah, those are actually not unreasonable. Like, we're waiting for your next blood test to go through, but like, it's not a bad idea to like tune a couple of these things, but you need to take some control of your health.
Yeah.
Which I feel like the chat can enable, just like WebMD enabled, but I also feel like I could go off the fucking reservation because I can order myself ketamine online right now.
Yeah.
Like, wait a minute, like the stuff that's available that I can get is insane. Like, and you can get anything, anywhere, all the time.
Yeah.
And it's one thing if it would be like, I need these things to make this stuff work. But like some of the things that like I've watched some of these different AI journeys come through, and the AI is like, yeah, you should definitely go get methadone. Like, huh? Like, okay, maybe that's not such a great idea. But if you walk into a doctor's office and you tell them, the ChatGPT says I have this symptom and this thing, and I need methadone or I need Vicodin, like they're going to say, you're fucking crazy.
Absolutely,
get the hell out of here. But in the time of telemedicine, like, how long until people start using ChatGPT and avatars to go through and start asking questions the right way to get a physician and socially engineer them to go, sure, here's some drugs. Like, that's kind of where I see this going and evolving. Like, it's this thing where it's like it's this tool that has great potential, but if you don't disconnect and look at the real world and actually try to understand things like lab results and blood tests, you're not going to get this out of this what you want, and you're likely going to put yourself in real harm. I'm just throwing that out there, and you're welcome to say, yeah, 100%. But also, if I'm wrong about something, please let me know here.
I don't think you're wrong about anything. And here, it's like this. We rely on technology. We rely on data. We rely on things that we can trust based on the people that are providing this information. When you look at supplements and things like that, a lot of times the stuff that's bought at natural stores and all, there's always a kind of like a little disclaimer saying, hey, if you're pregnant or nursing, which fortunately I've never been, but always consult a doctor. And even when people
you never nursed,
right?
You
never nursed. Like, I'm not going to say anything to that. But even when you consult certain supplements and things with a doctor, there's a strong chance the doctor may not know what you're talking about. Okay, it's like I had no idea.
I run into it all the time.
Yeah, it's like
yes.
I don't keep up with natural store supplements. That's part of like a whole different thing, which I think falls into different food categories and stuff. But what we look for is some evidence of there being peer-reviewed science, peer-reviewed research, done on these things. And we also look at cultures. That's another really interesting thing. Like, well, this culture's been, eating this stuff for 25 years. and not one of them have ever experienced, let's say a really rare kind of cancer, or maybe they have, a larger life expectancy. And sometimes that's correlated with, well, if you eat this stuff, you'll be like them, but you're not really correlating any kind of other metrics like their genetics and
Right.
other things too. So,
Or like
or
walking.
like, yeah, right,
Maybe their
right. Like,
culture
their
walks
culture walks.
while you sit on your ass all
Yeah,
day.
exactly. So there is merit to some of the stuff, and there's really cool associations, but that kind of stuff never really, it doesn't necessarily suggest it's harmful for you, but and it doesn't say it's going to give you amazing benefit either. But there's always
Yeah.
that thing saying, well, some research or some associations or with some, cultures and races, who live and eat and do this in this environment, they will have some level of benefit there. And but see, when you're broadcasting a product like an herb supplement, okay, it's done in such a way where you're thinking, well, if I do this, I should be pretty good for the rest of my life, and it's like not really that true. Now, in some cases, yeah, it actually does help, whatever,
Yeah.
it is. But the thing is that since a lot of physicians aren't really, totally familiar with everything out there, like for example, for years I dealt with, um, I worked with a group that provided high potency, high dose cannabis for cancer patients. And when you talk about that with your peers who aren't really aware or familiar with that, and I've got definitely a livestock here in the Bay Area that just for no reason will just insult me based on the fact that I talk about it. Um, they think that that it's witch medicine, but no, there's actually some peer reviewed stuff, and the kind of research that I've seen shows that it actually does have, some really neat affinity towards some types of cancers. Yeah, and I have to be careful what I say because I don't want to be quoted directly saying that I directly said that this will cure this or do that. You have to be very careful on that. But it was enough for me to get involved and really see people's lives change. And if you were to Google, hey, does cannabis cure cancer? I hope it would say no. Okay, I really do, which goes completely against what I know of the substance and in the different delivery methods that have been shown to, show some good positive stuff. Um, but it needs to be done on the same level that the information you get from the internet should be enough information where, or I'm sorry, not enough, but the kind of information that will give you the same confidence, okay, and should elicit exactly the results that you're expecting, whether it be a 1% improvement or a 100% improvement based on the things that we currently know, okay? And, and the easiest example I can give is if you don't drink water at all or any liquid of any sort or any food of any sort for a certain period of time, you will die. Okay, that's a given thing. If you don't eat or drink anything for a certain period of time, you will die.
Likely of dehydration
Yeah.
effects, right? Like
Okay. Now that we can sit on. Okay. I don't think we can find information saying if you eat ice cream and only ice cream every single day, you will live a very healthy life. You know, these are extremes, but these are the kind of things that I'm going to look for before I do anything to anyone, or more importantly, if anyone does anything to me that is regarding my life, my health, my anything. And certainly I've taken chances with herbs and supplements because hey, I'm reading about them, I'm researching them. Um, if I don't find anything truly conclusive, I'm probably not going to waste the money or the time to do it.
yeah.
But if I see enough, whether it be personal testimonial from people I know, what I'm reading on the internet, but what I'm reading more is I love going to NIH's PubMed. I think that's what it's called. And I like reading peer-reviewed abstracts. Now, I'm not saying peer-reviewed stuff from Juan Pepe to Beaker. I'm looking at like actual university-based research. And then when I look at the
Mhm.
research, if you know how to read a research paper, you know how to read an abstract, you look at all of the things, or at least you imagine all the things that are not included in the research, all the variables that have been excluded, not because they wanted to, just because they weren't uh, they weren't put into the study. And so that makes it a little bit more palatable, a little bit easier for me to understand, if this might be beneficial or not. If I can't get that, I'm probably going to forget it and just, go with what I know may work. And I know that's a really broad, really kind of like, it's not really an answer that directs anything. Um, to really the question, but it's just you have to be very careful. So just as much as you're keen to research AI or do anything, you should do the other research that you should do, which is not relying on AI. It's relying on your old school digging, and that could be asking somebody who is knowledgeable in this subject, reading things that are definitely published for scientific purpose, like anything in the New England Journal of Medicine, and even things that are published
Mhm.
there. You're just showing, a well done research study that doesn't necessarily prove how it's going to work with the entire population. Um,
Yeah. And oddly enough, I mean, a lot of that NIH research is going away. Like they're actively scrubbing articles and they're changing
I've
things and
noticed
they're
that.
moving
Yeah.
pieces around,
Hmm.
which is making the source of truth harder to
Hmm.
define. And then I mean, I've done this before where I mean, like I don't have a medical degree, and I am capable of reading most of those reports and understanding them if I spend the time to go through and like, Google what this fucking word means.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like I'm able to put it together. But I will say I have taken a few of these articles and I put them into ChatGPT and I said, can you summarize this for me in a way that I'm going to understand?
Okay.
And it will go through and it will go, all right, here's the salient bit of information that I think you need to know and understand. And then I can actually start asking it questions based upon
Yeah.
that. And it gives me good human contextual readable
Hmm.
information. That being said, I'm still not a doctor.
Hmm.
So I don't know if ChatGPT or Claude, anybody else I'm using, is full of shit. Because they might very well be, and I could be putting myself at additional risk and exposure. But if I'm talking about, buying one bullshit boner supplement over another bullshit boner supplement, it's probably not such a dangerous thing. Although I have read a lot about Yohimbe lately, giving people strokes and heart attacks.
Oh well, yeah,
But
of course.
yeah,
Yohimbe was the
yeah,
was the answer years ago to Viagra, and
right,
and
right.
but almost anything that goes in that mechanism, if you understand the mechanism of action, yes, there's a potential for a lot of things.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna create better vasodilation and suddenly I'm gonna put more blood through
Oh
things, which
yeah.
all your blood clots go, yay! Catch this
Yeah.
brain. It's interesting because you're able to I'm able to go through and synthesize this.
Mhm.
And I'm not the smartest person on the planet, but
No,
I've got
no.
a decent
Hold on,
college
Jason.
degree
First
and
of
I've
all,
got a
you're
bit of
different.
information on this.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt like that. But you're different. I know how you do that, but not everyone else does it the way you do it. So no, none of us are the smartest people on the planet, but we're above average compared to a lot of people. And what you're doing is by far more responsible than what some other people would do.
Uh,
So
yeah. And I do take the time to run stuff past doctors like
yeah.
yourself or my naturopath or I finally just got myself a primary doctor just a couple of weeks ago. And I've been using my naturopath for most of my stuff for a very, very long time because he's an MD and an ND. So, he's got both sides of it. He treats it with multiple different medicine types, and that's his whole thing, and I really like him. But to get access to certain specialists or other pieces, I have to go through a primary care physician.
Mhm.
Along those lines, I just did a quick check. The number of doctor's appointments that are primary care preventative physicians is about 50%. The other 50% are either emergency or urgent care, which means people are going in because something is broke or not working right. And my gut says a lot of these folks going into the ER and the urgent care probably don't have primary doctors and probably don't see a primary physician on a regular basis. And they're just dropping in to do these things. And that being the case, I really wonder if, and maybe you're not the best person to answer this. Maybe Denise is the right one to answer this. But is she seeing an uptick of people coming in going, I really think I have the answer? Or is she seeing a bunch of people coming in saying, this thing told me this is what it is. I need you to tell me if it's right.
Danita is the right person to ask because that's kind of the world she lives in. The answer is she gets both of those. What
Yeah.
percentage? I don't know, but it's very and funny enough, it's done by population too. So whether it be here in the Bay Area or over towards the Central Valley,
Oof. Sorry.
she will get yeah, she will get a population that will do that. She'll also get a population
Yeah.
that will come in, and I kid you not, these are the beautiful things of the progression of technology and information and society. Um, my favorite, because whenever she comes home, or not even when she comes home, when she's there, she'll call me and she'll tell me some funny, really funny stories that if it wasn't, she said, if it wasn't for me in her life, she would just be an angry person. She just would come home pissed off. She's like hating it. It's like, I hate all this stuff. But because she had me, we turned it into, we turned that frown upside down. Like I remember back in the day, I did my some clinical rotations in New York, and it was at a time where HIV was really, really, just it wasn't believe it or not, it's a very manageable thing right now, but it costs money
Yeah.
and it costs, you have to be very observant. But back then, it was Sarah Silverman had a comedy thing where she made a comment, when life gives you AIDS, make lemonades, and it was kind of something that we would say around because we had to, we it's
You
like,
gotta laugh.
like some people would say, like, you are so insensitive. I'm like, asshole, are you dealing with these patients every day? No,
Right.
you're not. Stop, man.
Right.
And if anything, that's just kind of a nice way to say, look, and here's what life is. Okay, this is what we got to deal with. So I do the same thing with her. So she might call me and say, like, hey, there's a Google, MD here. There's someone here. But sometimes this is one of my favorite things. She will get a patient that comes into the emergency room and says, yeah, I need an MRI. And it's like, okay, but why are you here? And it's like, well, my lips really chapped or something. I'm obviously making a comedic exaggeration, but it's completely something, anti-reasoning for getting someone an MRI. And then she'll
Yeah.
say, well, I don't really see a reason for you to get an MRI because, if you're here for this. And then here's the beautiful thing about society. She'll get a comment back saying, well, if you're not going to give me an MRI, that means you're racist. And I'm like, whoa, 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 nope. That is not what racism is. She's
That's not
deciding
how racism works.
which diagnostic equipment or mode you need for us to fix you. But she will get a ton of that. She will get.
Are stupid people a race? Are we? Is that how we're
Oh
classifying
my
this?
God, that is right, and it doesn't make any sense because it doesn't make any sense. Okay,
No.
but there are certain sociological factors, okay, that she will get for not doing or doing whatever, which completely just is out of the realm of what her medical experience and her medical knowledge is. Okay.
Right.
So, like, how do you deal with that? Like, and again, these are extreme exaggerated things, but if I was to actually show you or have her here and give real details of what happened yesterday in the ER, it would blow your mind. Okay. And so here's how the process
I'm
goes.
sure.
Comes in, has a paper cut, wants an MRI. Well, I can't give you an MRI. Well, you know what? I'd like to speak to your supervisor. And then, she'll do a do-si-do and be like, oh, here I am. I'm my own supervisor. No, I need a real doctor. Okay. You need a real doctor. Why? Well, I need a doctor who's a man, because men are real. She will get all the time. So here you have a separation.
And I'm guessing it's men primarily that say this shit,
That's
right?
The real doctor's here. Anyway, but what you have there is you have already a skewed assumption and knowledge of what the patient is expecting to get based on the internet. And then if they don't get what they want, then they immediately turn it into something that is non-medical. It becomes sociological. It becomes, cultural. It becomes something else. And she's like, I deal with this. And then you have to get, the institution involved. And then it further complicates everything. It's unbelievable what she has to deal with. And I never have had to deal with it. I mean, she gets the worst of it for sure.
Yeah. But she's fighting belief. Like she's not fighting logic and reason. She's not fighting an idea. She's fighting a belief. Somebody has looked at this thing and now they believe this is the thing that's happening, as opposed to going, hey, maybe this is what's occurring. And I see it happen all the time. Like I'm just in the tech field, and I deal with folks quite often that believe a thing works a certain way, and then I have to prove with a whole bunch of data points that that's not how it occurred.
Yeah.
And I'm successful about half the time in convincing them. The people that work with them that came with the thought that it's an idea are like, oh yeah, I totally get that. But then I made an enemy because I've challenged someone's belief system on a technology piece that has nothing to fucking do with like anything out there. But I think this is happening a lot more because AI is really, really good at giving us information sets.
Yeah.
And then if you follow the trail with it and you follow the Google and you put the information in the right order, it spits out the same results. And you wind up with confirmation bias because you go in with an idea saying, I think this is something like this. I think this is why. Here are the pieces. And the AI wants to keep you engaged and happy. So it spits back an answer that's going to keep you engaged and happy. And the fact that likelihood that it's going to spit back and say, no, dum-dum, you shouldn't do that is low. But the likelihood that it spits back with, well, not exactly, it kind of might be this, and then someone follows the kind of might be this rat hole, is a really common fucking thing. And it's not that there's not value in following the absurd or following, the road less traveled kind of piece. But as a doctor, I'm guessing you're dealing in macros, and you're dealing with data in such a way that you're looking at graphs and charts and probabilities to try to find a way and carve a path through something to try to get to an endpoint that has a positive outcome, because you're dealing with systems that aren't inherently transactional. Like there's multiple things being fed into them simultaneously. It's not like, put this pill in, get this net result. Yeah. It's put this thing in along with these other things, along with this, and this might be the thing that causes these trends to change and move in a certain direction. And there's certainly things that can be, big stopping points. Like I can take a pill of cyanide and die right away. But I can also do something like smoke a cigarette that has a little bit of cyanide in it and be just fine. So it's rate, it's volume, it's interactions, it's all these pieces happening simultaneously, and it's systems. And these chat systems have been set up and designed with these neural networks to find approximations of understanding of how they put those pieces in, to try to sort data, to make those things more palatable and reasonable. And we've turned around and given them like a human level of interactive consciousness, not consciousness, but a human level interactive version of perceptual output that looks like consciousness. So we feel like we're talking to something that actually can reply back to us in a way that makes sense to us. And the fact that they can go through and you can create personification of this to say, hey, pretend you're a doctor that does this. I mean, you could tell it to pretend you're one of the fucking doctors from ER or Noah Wiley from The Pit. Pretend you're Noah Wiley from The Pit and answer me this.
Yeah.
Expecting you're going to get an answer. And again, it's just this like continual loop of confirmation bias, misinformation, poorly distinguished outcomes, because we think we fucking know what we're doing and we don't.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think I just ranted. I don't know that I have a question in there, but fuck, man, like this is driving me insane because I see so many potential things for good, and I see us just fucking it up.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to do it. It's so easy to just let people run with it and, Darwin themselves out of existence.
Yeah, dude, first of all, there's lots of questions in there. During this whole podcast, which I want the viewers at home to know, I had no idea what we were going to be talking about. That's probably why I sounded a little slow, despite my Oaxacan coffee and Oaxacan background.
Dear viewers, I just found out Jeremy was sick, so we had nothing prepared past us, and Ajit said he had time, so we are doing this.
I love it, though, because when I have time, and it's funny, because I think we should have done this with both of us drinking, okay? But the thing is there's... I started thinking as you were talking about watching old episodes of Star Trek. Like I'm talking like Kirk and Spock, Nimoy and Shatner, okay? And when you look at Bones, the doctor, right? I mean, that fucker had like probably, he was he was the ship's doctor, right? And and I look at Denitsa and, she's the ship's doctor. And the thing
you
about
call her Bones?
Denitsa and Bones, okay. What was his real name or whatever? In the Dr. McCoy, right? Was that what that was?
Dr. Leonard McCoy.
Leonard McCoy. Bones is what they called him, right? I love that, man. Hey, Bones, get over here, But when you look at him, I remember watching the series really religiously and well. It was part of our grow up, not grow up, our upbringing. Eventually we saw the other trends of what Hollywood would do, and in fact I think the Next Generation was the best iteration of like the entire franchise. But
TNG's so good.
No, it's so good, dude. But when you watch those doctors, especially starting with Dr. McCoy, I mean, the dude had the easiest job in the world, man. He could give a physical in 2 seconds just by, scanning a walkie-talkie or something. And I'm
waving a tricorder.
And I'm sorry, what?
Waving the tricorder.
Yeah, waving the tricorder, doing whatever it is. And then I remember there was maybe an episode or two where the fucker had to do surgery. And man, I
Yeah.
mean, it was almost like non-deliberate. But when I look back on that particular episode, I don't know who needed it, Spock or Shatner. I don't know. But when it came down to the surgery, I mean, he has to actually cut in, and you see him sweating, and it's almost like oh fuck, man. I mean, I don't have a device for this. I gotta actually do this on my own, you know. And you know, he's the doctor that's been chosen by Starfleet, so he should know it.
Yeah.
But he's totally like sweating. He gets the job done successfully, and I'm sure with the aid of the other technology that he has. But it showcased something very interesting as I look back on it, which was the technology for day to day was good enough to a point where, you know, you could probably save lives, or save lives with certain conditions that right now would be like there's no way you're going to save someone with that. But with that top technology, you could. But sometimes you have to get right down to the nitty gritty and do things manually, and it looked like that was a big struggle for him. And yet now, especially, you know, with where we live, you know, we're close enough to Palo Alto where we see a lot of really cool stuff coming out of Stanford, you know, where it's
Hmm.
biomedical, you know, just amazing, you know, technology that is combined with, you know, the healthcare providers that are going to implement this that are, you know, it's amazing, life-changing, life-saving stuff. Um, but when I look at that with some of the stuff they have, I mean, it's very identical to some of the stuff you would see in Star Trek. And I think that possibly could be deliberate because you got
Yeah.
techies who are also Trekkies who, you know, who want to actually see if something like this could be possible. And, you know, for years, we've seen a development of these things that look very similar to Star Trek, you know, kind of devices that do probably even more than what that Star Trek device did back in the day. And then we have equipment that we know will help us confirm certain things. Like if one knows how to interpret a CT scan or an MRI correctly, you can get a pretty good diagnosis of what could be wrong. But of course, then you have to go further, and you sometimes may have to get a sample. You know, you'll have to do a biopsy. You'll have to do something that will confirm that. And but that changes how it used to be, which is like, well, I can't really see anything down there. Let's just cut it open and, you know, see what we find. So in that regard, that technology is really good. But even that technology that was something that was scanning and observing, right? Even that at
Hmm.
some point could have been a questionable thing to do, just like AI. So what I'm hoping is that the use of how AI works, instead of it being in like the broad spectrum of like what ChatGPT will do, like I would be more impressed, for example, to see an AI solely getting its information from like let's say NIH is PubMed, okay? And let's just say
Yeah.
nothing is being scrubbed from PubMed, that it is like, you know, a fixed library that is only being added to, but is peer reviewed and vetted before it is in that database. I would like to see, for example, an AI that gets this information solely from that versus an aggregate of the entire crap that's on the internet. Okay.
Yeah.
And in that regard, I can see a very good positive thing. I can see where we don't have to say we're messing this up or we're doing this all wrong. We don't know anything. We can do something that can help the people that are supposed to help others with better tools. You know, and I think the same thing can be done in isolated military aggregates of AI, isolated
Hmm.
things involving cooking techniques using AI. You know, I
Yeah.
think it's a very interesting and broad start, but we need to get more fine-tuned with it. Again, in the same way the example I gave was medical imaging used for diagnostics. Okay.
Hmm.
It has come a long way. But you know, if you look at some of these diagnostic equipment from like, you know, 30, 40 years ago compared to what we can do now, it's almost like you look at the stuff back then and it's like, dude, are you looking at a photo from space or are you looking at, you know, a human body, you know? And
Yeah.
and it was really poor stuff, but they were able to build off that. So
Yeah.
I don't think building off the stuff from back then caused a lot of harm, you know, or too much harm. But I think building off
Right.
something that is so broad spectrum, I use the term broad spectrum as a pun from, you know, medical shit, but it really is. And I think that is something that can hurt for right now unless we start fine tuning how we want it to be. Now, of course, if we fine tune every area of this, well, then there's the argument on the potential of what that can do for human society, what it can do to jobs, what it can do to how we interact, collaborate, you know. And frankly, I see enough people now that are antisocial for many reasons I think overall this is going to further problems socially, whether it be by argument or whether it be by seclusion, for one's choice. I don't know. But I think there's so much good positive application where you could get certain AIs to do the job that is the responsible job and the right job. But right now, no, we're not seeing that. I'm seeing an internet part 2, which is like, first there was the
Yeah.
internet, and it's like, yes, we will all become smarter because of this. And then we have AI, which is also saying the same thing. And no, I disagree. It causes arguments. It causes it because now you have a generation or several generations underneath us that are as a total, not everyone, that view this as gospel. And we
Yeah.
took the same test too, man. Danica and I went down the AI road of evaluating people that we know in real life, and we then questioned it, but focused our questions. Like with one particular person, we focused on them saying, well, why are they like what kind of medical specialty are they, and what kind of this? And then we started asking the questions. Well, why are they such a bad doctor? Are they such a bad doctor because they've done this and this? And then AI, will kind of encourage them, saying, yeah, there's a good chance that doctor who probably could have started off on our initial questioning was, a good doctor, a well-respected doctor, but you get down to the very end, and it's kind of like, yeah, you shouldn't see this doctor, man. This is, you know what, you're right with the questions you're asking. He's a terrible doctor to go to,
I mean, the AI and the internet, they're tools, right? Like, and tools have different valuations, and we've taken this tool and put it in everybody's hands. And if you make it the equivalent of a hammer, if you put a hammer in one person's hand versus another, they can probably both bang nails. But somebody can turn it into a weapon. Somebody can make beautiful sculptures out of it. Some people can only bash themselves in the foot and the hand with it. And you're giving I mean, we are human beings. We are tool users. That is what we are. But not every tool is meant for every human being to be optimally used, and not every human being should be given access to every tool. And cars are a tool, but we make you take a test before you can actually use these things. A key is a tool to get into your house. Kids have to learn how to do those pieces. We've become reliant, though, on these tools to supplement actual human knowledge. And speaking of the pit, I just watched this episode last night. There was a cyber attack that occurred at other hospitals in this mythical area inside of, I think it's in Pittsburgh is where the show's set. And the hospital administration decides that they're going to shut down all of their IT and go back to using manual boards to try to make these things work. And the ER goes into absolute chaos because nobody knows how to use a fucking whiteboard. Like,
really? Oh my God.
Yeah. Yes. Like, is that how fragile we actually are as a society, as people, because we've become reliant on these tools. And the more things that we hand over to AI, the more reliant we become on these pieces. Like, at what point does self-reliance have to take precedent over technological reliance? Because I rely way too fucking much on technology. I know that, but I also know that if I had to go out into the forest and survive, I could. I don't know that. I think my kids could, because I've taught them enough of how to make those pieces work. But I don't think the neighbors' kids could. Like, I think they'd be real problems, and I think they would die on the street if they didn't have running water.
Oh,
Like,
yeah. I feel confident in things that I can do too. And I have to be honest with myself, and I have to be honest with the people around me. I'll go into what I mean by that in one second, but regarding tools.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. The analogies you gave are absolutely right. They are tools. Anything that you can use for good, I'm certain. Of course, if someone wants to discredit me and say, well, that can't be used for good and that can't be used for bad, fine, man, you got me. Okay, I'll and this is what it means to be honest with yourself.
All words are made up. It's okay.
With other people. Yeah. It's
Right.
like, man, you got me. That one item you just mentioned totally shuts down what I'm saying. Or does it? Okay?
Right.
Like, I can use this to drink my coffee, or I can use it to help assist me bashing your face in. Okay?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an extreme. So tools can be used for good, tools can be used for bad. They're fucking tools.
That's right.
Okay? They have no conscience, and neither does AI. Okay? AI is a tool. It can help you get to something good or something bad. It depends how you want to use it.
Yeah.
You need to understand what it's there for. So if you wish to use it for something bad, go for it. If you wish to use it for something that you don't know and you're using it solely on how to learn something, you know what? It might do a decent job. It might do a bad job. There's a great example one time. There was something, I forgot what it was, but it was kind of a, oh God, you know what it was?
Nope.
Oh God, it was something so simple. It was how to pop open an ampule for an injection, and it was it was not something she was used to, and it's not something you normally see in the
Different lid
in the
tips.
U.S. Yeah,
Yep.
that's what it was. And I said, oh yeah. What you need for this is you need this other tool, and that tool pops. So she goes, what are you talking about? I'm like, I'll show you. And I looked, and I went to Google, and I said, "Well, let me show you. I know exactly what this is." But even though what she looked up would have been good enough of how to pop the thing correctly, and get what she needed and provide the injection, what I showed her was something that was not mentioned in that video, which was an actual device used to safely pop this thing open, and then how to properly administer the syringe to give the injection. So that is something where she first said, okay, look, I need to use this thing. I'm not going to pretend I know how to use it. She relied on the internet, a tool, okay, to see how it's done. And despite recognizing, and I'm sure with what she did, she could have easily, but not easily, but just within time, just done it. But she said, no, my husband, went to medical school and did his training over in Europe. Maybe he knows something about this. So here we have three different things just in this process. And I found something that she didn't see. And so therefore, once we applied that, or at least we found the other part of the device, she was able to do her job more effectively. That took more time, but that was the responsible way of using tools and still vetting it the same way. Let's say people want to get a second opinion in a medical diagnosis. She came to me for that. That took time, but that was the responsible time. And I'm happy to say that person is most likely alive today. Okay. Whereas I can't say other people, will go in that process. I know will go through that process. And it's some people think that that's overly cautious. No, it's not overly cautious. It's the right thing. It's either your life or somebody else's life. And forget medical stuff. What if it's simply getting work done? What if it's avoiding plagiarism? What if it's cooking the best waffle? You should go through a normal process before you decide full Star Trek automation is the way to go. And I think right now we're in the infancy of that, and that's what makes it scary, and that's what makes it it makes it weird. And that's why it's easy, just the way you said, hey man, we may not know what we're doing exactly as a society, as tech culture goes and advances these things that are supposed to make our lives easier, better, and all that. Yes, we hope that exists, but there's also the other side that makes it far worse. And so I quote Dimitri Martin, comedian, and he said something years ago which was an absolutely hilarious thing regarding the internet. He said, the internet is full of sexual predators. But to be fair, it's also full of sexual prey. And it was really funny when you hear that. But then now, you fast forward, it's like that was funny, but it also showcased something that is real. And it shows how the internet can be used for good and for bad. And it's something that we should always be cognizant of, I think. So there's that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that's good. I think what I'm taking away from this, though, is that in the example you provided where your wife needed help making a tool work, the tool she turned to was you to actually get the right answer. And I would like to encourage everyone to be your own tool. Be a tool for yourself.
I know.
For lack of a better term.
You're such a tool. And I'm like, you're welcome.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You're welcome.
All right, that was our good friend, Dr. Ajit Barron-Dhillon. We can always count on him to share insane stories and colorful analogies. We hope you've enjoyed that conversation. If you did, please share it with somebody. You can do that with the links at our website, brobots.me, and that's where you're going to find a brand new episode from us next and every Monday morning. So make sure you subscribe. Don't miss it. brobots.me. We'll see you there or on YouTube if you want to look at our faces while we talk for some reason.